I get those comments a lot myself. Like,
Yeah.
you behave, you look like a white
foreigner,
person.
like a white person.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Wow.
stuff like that. So for me, it doesn't sit well because.
So do you feel like if the guy is foreign, they expect more from him than from a local?
Oh yes.
Focus, man.
What is happening, everybody? Once again, this is your man, Jay Focused, reminding you to stay focused. Okay, so I'm here in Kigali, Rwanda with...
Sandra Nadesh.
Oh, said your full government. You didn't have to. You could have made up a name. You could have just said your first name. But hey, I respect it. You know, you're proud of that whole thing. So, you know, good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
Okay, so you were born and raised here in Kigali, is that correct?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, awesome. So you've got like a really good perspective or first-person perspective about the country. So I can ask you some in-depth questions about it. First question, have you met many Black Americans before?
Yeah, I think I have met a couple of them, but we didn't interact that deeply, so it was just like we working together.
Okay.
I see them at school or something like that.
Okay, so there were Black Americans at your school.
Not at my school, other schools.
So how did you meet them then? When they came to visit, or how did that work?
Well, there are all the times conferences, summits happening out here, so yeah, in that way schools get invited and then you meet people from.
Have exchanges and that kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Awesome. And what is your view on Black American culture? Since you said you have at least seen some, you've actually met some, and you've actually, you know, probably observed Black Americans on media, whether that's social media, television, movies.
What's my view? I feel like it's the culture in itself is very, how do I put it, chill.
Okay.
It's more like real. It's like there is no placating stuff or anything. It's a culture where, yeah, you gotta say what you mean. So, or you show what you want to show. There is no nonsense type of a thing.
So it sounds like you're saying that it's very expressive.
Yeah, expressive, yeah.
Okay. So if people, they got a problem, they're gonna make sure that you know what the problem is. Like, look, we gotta get this, gotta get it off my chest. I'm gonna tell you how I feel, that kind of a thing?
Yeah, that kind of a thing.
Okay. And who do you think is, or not just one person, could you name a couple influential Black Americans, people that you notice maybe in the media or names that you hear a lot of famous Black Americans?
Who? Oh my God, maybe the ones in movies.
Like who first comes to mind
like
when I say
who?
Black American? Like, do you think
let's
of
see,
Beyonce? Do you think of Oprah? I don't know. Like,
well,
what comes to mind?
Oprah comes in.
Do you think of Obama? Do you think of?
Of course, Obama. Actually, he was the one who came to my mind because I was like, yeah.
And you know, technically, he's not even like a Black American, which is a whole nother conversation. Which I don't know if you're comfortable going into that, but yeah, that's a whole nother
I was
thing.
actually going to say the other comedian. How is he called?
Kevin Hart?
No, South African. He's South African.
Oh, Trevor Noah.
Trevor. Yeah, I was going to say him. Like,
he's not Black
he's
American.
Not.
He just moved there.
Yeah. So
when he was already like in his 30s, like that's definitely not a local person.
Yeah, but I could think of like Keith.
Who?
Like there is a guy who plays in movies. The photography. You wouldn't know him, but yeah, I only see them in movies.
Okay.
I don't have any on top of my head.
What about music? Do you listen to any Black American artists?
Boyz II Men.
Old school, okay. You
Yeah.
like Boyz II Men. Shout out to Boyz II
yeah.
Men. They're actually coming to Kigali
They are?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it. They're coming this year. I think, I don't.
Okay.
It might be October. Yeah, I can send it to you. I can forward it to you. They've already put it out. So yeah, they're coming out here for sure.
I'm going.
That's what's up. You know, the new generation. They know about Boys II Men. So yeah, man, click the like button just for that. Just for Boys II Men coming to Rwanda, and the young generation, they already know about Boys II Men. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. So I'm trying to think of another really good question to ask you. Okay, so is there anything about Black American culture that you don't understand, that to you seems kind of strange, or it wouldn't fit in Rwanda?
I don't know if this will sound okay or not, but
No, be honest. Be honest.
if I'm being honest, Black Americans are, well, African Americans are Americans before they're Africans. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
because-
I know exactly what you're saying. You're saying
Yeah.
that the American culture is stronger
Yeah,
than any
it's like-
African links. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, because some of them don't really know what their links are to
The majority,
Africa. The
not some, the majority. Yeah, the majority
so-
does not know, exactly where their ancestry comes from. And do you know why that is?
I think it all comes down to who is powerful writes the history. So
Yes,
parts
exactly.
of it, but we did have some people who are heroic and they managed to, to save some of the bits of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there is so much that we don't know because whoever has power writes, the history.
That's very true. I
Yeah.
can agree with that.
But let's see, the expressiveness wouldn't fit in Rwanda.
It's a little
Because
too much.
It's a little bit too much. It's like if you have a problem with someone here, you don't walk up to them in the restaurant and be like, "I have a problem with you." No, it's like we're more of passive aggressive ish. So it's more like, I am mad at you, but I'm not going to show everyone that I'm mad at you. So
Yeah.
we do it privately.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you have your own way of dealing with those kind of uncomfortable situations.
Even if you're too happy for us, like most of the times we don't really show too much emotion. So yeah.
I thought that was interesting. One thing that I didn't think about, but I've heard many people mention, is that here in Rwanda, if you're a couple, like a man and a woman, and you're dating, you don't do a lot of public affection.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So here, like the most people will do is hold hands, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, you can hold hands, or you can maybe, I don't know, wrap your arm around the other person's
Something
shoulder.
something like that.
This,
Yeah.
but,
Okay.
if you are extreme, you could kiss, but maybe in a club somewhere with
But
too
it's
many
not.
people.
It's not for a normal environment.
It's not normal. People are gonna stare at you.
So you wouldn't be in the mall and just like going for a
Oh,
kiss
no.
in front of like the whole world.
Don't do it.
You guys are way too shy for that, right?
Yeah, I
Like the
don't
girl,
know
she
if
would be
it's-
embarrassed.
Not even the girl. Both of you would be embarrassed.
Okay, that's really interesting. The differences. Not saying that all Black Americans, would be comfortable doing that too, but white Americans definitely would. So there's a big difference. I don't know if you know the history about how Black Americans came to the U.S. Are you aware of that?
Yeah,
Transatlantic slave trade and all
Yeah.
that. So a lot of people might have the perception that, like, once slavery was officially over,
People
we
went back.
were equal. Like no. There were still so many unwritten laws about, like, the way we were allowed to express our love, and to even be happy in public was some way like a revolutionary thing. If the wrong white person saw that, they would try their best to try to squash that happiness. So because of that and many other reasons, I don't want to get too deep, and I'm sure there's going to be like some scholar in the comments who's going to say, "No, what's this guy talking about? No, I did my dissertation and it wasn't this, it was that." So hey, leave those comments if you want to, but I'm just going off the top of the head right now and just trying to say that, yeah, in general, the white American mainstream culture is a lot more liberal as it comes to those kind of
Yeah.
things, and a lot of that is because they did have intact families, and we didn't have that as much. So it's something that we're we're having to rediscover, what black love looks like, and a lot of people who weren't raised around that, they're not comfortable expressing that, but it's changing. So yeah, that's all I can really say on that subject. Anything else that you wanted to add as far as it relates to the cultural differences?
Well, there's something you said, like, there is not much expression, and for example, when you express yourself, people are gonna think that you have white mannerisms. Especially out here in Rwanda, it's a very common thing. Like, let's say, for example, there are things that, like, let's say being overly punctual, this person who is like, time is a
yes,
deal breaker.
Looking at the clock, yes.
If you're this person who is free to do things around, if you're just like expressive and free, they would. I get those comments about myself, like, you behave, you look like a white person.
Like a white person,
yeah,
okay.
and
Wow.
stuff like that. So for me, it doesn't sit well because
it's not a compliment.
No, not at all. It's like inside of a black person or an African person, there is no bones for for good stuff.
Sure. Yeah, it's unfortunate when people sometimes like to equate certain characteristics with blackness or whiteness when they have nothing to do with it whatsoever. It's completely removed from that. Someone can be an introvert, and that doesn't mean they're more white, or it doesn't mean they're more black. And someone can be, the opposite. Someone can be super expressive, and that doesn't mean that they're acting like a black person.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, those ideas aren't only restricted to the U.S. They're also, as you mentioned, here in Africa on some level. And speaking about being late, so confession, I was late today. Not very late, but I was kind of late today. And I don't know if that means that I've become a local, because when I first got here, I was super like, I said, let's meet at 4. Why are you not here at 4:03? Like, why are you disrespecting me? That's how I was when I first got here. And then
sounds like you're blending in.
And then after a while, I'd be like, all right, if I tell them 4, I'd expect them to be 4:30. More likely 5.
Wow.
4:45-ish. So with that in mind, I kind of slowed myself down and kind of got a little bit more in that rhythm. So,
but it's not a good thing though.
I don't know if it's good or bad, but yeah, it's definitely something that takes adjustment, and it's something that needs to be coordinated, because if both people are going to be on that like chill time, then both people need to express that. Because if one person is on the chill time, the other person's like, look, I got XYZ I need to do after, then that's when there's a problem, when there's that disconnect. But if it's a lazy weekend, Saturday, Sunday, everything's copacetic, it's very informal, then you got a little bit more leeway than if it's like, look, I want to show you this house, we're going to sign this deal for business or something like that. In those instances, yes, you do need to be aware of the clock, because you're dealing with someone else whose time is very valuable, and they may have 3 other meetings that day, and if you're late, then your meeting just may get stretched out because they have to go to the next one. So yes, communication is always important. That's how I look at it.
I agree. I definitely agree.
So now we're gonna get a little spicy. Not too spicy.
I see.
It's not dark yet. We're
Okay.
not gonna get too spicy. But no, I'm curious. What do you think of the dating scene here in Kigali?
Wow. Considering that I'm not very much in it.
Okay, sure. You don't have to talk specifically about your situation. You can talk about maybe friends, or just things that you've heard or whatever.
Well, the whole thing is very weird to me, because it's just that the dynamics now are different from than they've been before. Because as Rwanda attracts more people with more cultures, there is so much going on.
Sure.
So it also affects. It's not like someone is going to invest in Rwanda and simply stop dating at all. They're going to come and they're also going to meet people, have relationships. So it's. It also goes back to the inferiority complex. Sometimes you could see that if you're a black American and you have a white American friend with you, they're likely to be chosen. So that's also a dynamic, and there are more and more people getting married to white people. Some people consider it a trend.
Okay.
Some others say it's just for green cards.
Yeah.
But I believe somewhere there's some people in love, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and I would say it's hectic. The scene is pretty much hectic. There is very little ways to meet authentic people. It's like there are authentic people somewhere, and there are unauthentic people somewhere, and they're all wondering why they're not meeting, and they're meeting the other.
Okay, I follow you.
Yeah.
So to get a little bit more specific, what would you say the average Rwandan woman expects when she's dating or in a relationship? What is she looking for? The average one. Of course, it varies, but on average.
Oh my God! In Kigali, there are extremes. Like you may have one that is expecting your full attention, gifts, vacation, and stuff, and you may have the one as far as just talking to her, making sure that you call her. Maybe it can go as low as that and as high as that.
Gotcha.
So I would say the average is pretty much like I think quality time,
Yes.
Commitment.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you put in those gifts, it's not gonna be a bad thing.
Yeah. So it's not that all Rwandan women. I hope I understand this right. So it's not that all Rwandan women are expecting so much material things, an outward show, but there is a certain expectation of financial support. Would that be accurate?
I don't know really.
No. Okay.
I wouldn't know for real.
That's fair.
But from some interactions I've seen, actually they used to be like that. This is a very recent thing. Like I would even say maybe 2015 up to now.
Okay.
So things have been changing until now. Mostly it wasn't normal for women to be financially supported by their partners in a relationship, but it's becoming a thing now. Yeah.
Interesting. So they expect more from him than from a local?
Oh yes. that's a given. That's a given.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so if you don't want to talk about this, we can edit it, but have you had any experiences dating foreigners?
Actually, weirdly, I haven't dated much Rwandans, to be honest.
Okay.
But anyways, do I have any experience dating foreigners? Not really. I can't really say that I've been in a full-blown relationship, but yeah, I've had romantic interactions with some.
Okay.
But for me, it doesn't really matter. Like the nationality thing for me is not really a thing.
It's not important.
Yeah, for me, it's really
connection.
about the connection and inner calmness, character, yeah,
Okay.
and purpose.
There you
Heavy
go.
on the purpose.
That's important. That's
Yeah.
definitely important. Okay. All right, so we're gonna play a fantasy scenario, right?
Okay.
I just made you Queen of Rwanda for for let's say for a year. What kind of changes would you like to see in that year? What things would you implement?
First of all, it's behavioral change. First of all, it's behavioral change for me because especially among the youth, and yeah, that's one thing among the youth because I feel like we need a lot of independent thinking these days, and I feel like Rwanda being a trend where most tourists are going, investors, blah blah. We have so many people, there's social media, everything is just too much. People are thinking in groups, sort of. So it feels like there isn't much self-awareness. So yeah, I would probably implement a curriculum for meditation and self-awareness. But
Okay, awesome.
yeah, and something else I would like to see change is the generational gap gets wider and wider. Like the older people are just in their own sphere. They're thinking about life in a different way than the younger ones, and I feel like that causes a disconnection of sorts, and it manifests in different ways. So I would probably have intergenerational conversations.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like tell me what you think life is like. I tell you how
How you
think.
see it.
How, yeah, and then we come to common terms because at the end of the day there should be some common ground.
Okay.
So yeah, that's another one. The third thing, what would I do? Ooh, I would make people plant,
Plant.
flowers,
Grow things.
gardens.
Okay, yeah, planting.
Yeah,
Okay.
inside of their homes.
All right.
Yeah.
I see you. Okay. So sounds like dialogue is very important to you, and
Yeah.
also, having people cultivate their environment, what's around them, because I've probably said this a million times already, but Rwanda is beautiful, and it's so green here, and it's clean. So, why not? Why not? Get your hands
we
in
need
the
to
soil
start also using
and build
the
things.
green
Yeah.
spaces.
And harvest more.
Yeah.
So, great. Any last words that you have, or anything you wanted to ask me?
Last words. I was gonna ask where does this go exactly? Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? 'Cause I don't think they want to hear this answer.
Yeah, of course
So-
not.
So,
What
I'll
else?
edit that out.
What else? Yeah, so like how do Black Americans consider Africans?
That is a very good question. I like that question. How do Black Americans consider Africans? So I have to be honest with you. In America, obviously, it's a huge country. It's going to vary where you're at. If you're in a city, a big city like New York, certain parts of Los Angeles, San Francisco, you probably have had some interaction with Africans. But the majority, I would say, of Black Americans don't regularly talk to Africans, don't regularly see them. I think in the U.S., their population is still very small. It's growing, of course, but there's still very few of you guys. Outside of like Washington, D.C., there's a lot there. And like I said, a few other cities. So most of our opinions aren't going to be formed from contact. That's why one of the reasons I asked you about African Americans was, have you actually met one? Not just things you've heard or seen, but actually, experienced yourself. So because of that, the fact that we don't have those interactions, there's a lot of ignorance, right? And so I will say that the majority of the Africans who do come to the States, the ones that some of us do have interactions with, they typically tend to be from the upper middle classes. So there's often this dynamic in the States where, just to name a few communities off the top of my head, some of the biggest communities of Africans in the States are Nigerians and Ethiopians. And those are also the biggest, most populated countries in Africa. So anyway, in those communities, like I said, it's going to be an upper middle class Nigerian, upper middle class Ethiopian who's arriving to the States. And so because of the way the U.S. has been set up, there's still a lot of, what's the word? Not discrimination, but there is discrimination, but segregation. There's still a lot of segregation. So even though an African who has money is going to come to the States, the odds are they may live in a neighborhood that's still more black, and the black people they encounter might be usually poorer than they are. So they're going to have a certain lens when they view those black Americans as like, okay, these people are poor. They see that. This is how I feel personally. I feel like they see that before they see, okay, this is another black person like me. And so black Americans see those, well-to-do Africans and think, okay, they think they're better than me,
Oh,
And so it's like, okay, so if they think they're better than me and they're from Africa, then all Africans think they're better than me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like there's that kind of a disconnect that happens far too frequently in America. Because, most of the time, Africans do very, very well in America, and it tends to be, like I said, people who grew up comfortable, So you've got engineers maybe from Lagos, who they go to the U.S., they go to D.C., they go to New York, and they study at very, very high-rated universities, right? And so it's like a very strong class thing for them.
Yeah.
And another black person who maybe they're from like a lower middle class, but their family worked hard, and they were able to get into that same university. They see that other African and they say, hey, you're a black like me, what's up? We're both black. And they look at them like, yeah, we're both black, but like, I'm rich and you're not. Like,
Okay.
or like, I have my culture and you don't. So there's that disconnect where we're expecting them to be almost like us, but just coming from Africa. And they're looking at us from a completely different lens. Like, they don't care that we're black too. It's like, everyone's black. I'm from Nigeria. Everyone I know is black. You being black, I don't care. It's not special. And I feel like there's that kind of a disconnect that often happens in the States. So yeah, I would say the average African American, if you ask them about Africa or Africans in general, it's not going to be super positive. But it is changing. Like I said, these aren't the only experiences that you can have in America. There's some people who they might have gone to elementary school all the way up to high school with Africans, and they know the culture, they've met the families and that kind of thing. So it's more of a real connection versus like you go your whole life and some African Americans, they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they don't meet an African until they're that age,
Oh, okay.
So at that point it's like you've got a lot of baggage, a lot of history before you meet them, and maybe they're older too. And so it's like you're never going to have that kind of a connection where as someone like you who's younger and like someone like me who's from a younger generation, we're much more open to have those kind of conversations and bridge that gap. And it's not perfect and it's not going to be perfect overnight, but I feel like it's something to build towards, for our children where those differences will be less important.
We hope so. We hope to see a change.
Because I think it's inevitable when you look at it, like if you look at the migration of people, in the future you're going to have more and more Africans moving to the US. It's inevitable. And at the same time, you're going to have more and more Africans moving to the continent of Africa. So those interactions are inevitable. They're going to have to happen. And so we need to both go into it with an open mind and understanding each other. That's how I look at it. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's it. That's all I'm going to say on that topic. So, once again, this is your man, Jay Focus, reminding you to stay focused. Until next time.
Of yours, this thing is a life that's better than yours.